Hi, I'm Kevin Klein, City Councillor for Charleswood-Tuxedo-Westwood. I want to say thank you to all of the residents who participated virtually in our public safety town hall. And I also want to thank the two members of the Winnipeg Police Service who took time out of their day to sit with us in the evening and answer some questions and help us better understand what we could do to protect our homes and what we could do with our neighbors and how we should connect and learn more and more about how to report crime, even the smallest crime that you don't think is that big of a deal, but how important it is to report it online and what that leads to, because it's led to an arrest. A couple of times. It's led to an arrest with some community center break-ins in Tuxedo. It's led to an arrest in Charleswood. It's very important. So you can learn about that system because we're going to play the entire 1 hour town hall for you right now. I'm going to warn you though, the internet, sadly, at the very end, we were just wrapping up. We were going to say our goodbyes anyways. The internet at City Hall was cut off. Not by somebody, it just stopped. So it does end abruptly, so I apologize for that now. But I think you'll find this very informative. There were some very good questions and some very interesting stats. And I think if you do take the time to watch it, it is long, it's an hour. But if you listen to the stats about the stolen cars and some interesting stats of how they got stolen, wow. So here we go. This is the town hall for Charleswood-Tuxedo-Westwood on public safety. Remember, at the end, it ends. It just ends.
Hi, everybody. You're on mute right now, just so that we can get everything started. A little bit late. That's my fault, so I apologize for that. Just trying to get set up in the office and make sure that we have members of the service all set up in their room and that we were connected properly. So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us. We have some time tonight on a very important topic. It's always important in our community, and that's public safety, something that is very important to me. And I talk to a number of residents on a regular basis that are concerned with safety in their neighborhood. They have questions about what they can do, and and other questions about what's happening in the community or what steps are being taken. So this is a good opportunity to do that. To ensure that we're not talking over everybody, and I'll introduce our members in a couple of seconds. One of the easiest way, I'm sure most of you have used Zoom by now. There is a chat button at the very bottom of Zoom that you can use. And if you just want to put your name in there or that you have a question, I'll make sure that we get to you and unmute you so that you can ask your question and have the members of the service answer that question for you. Or if you have another comment you want to bring up, by all means, feel free to put that in the chat. You can also, there's a way of raising your hand. It will show on your screen because I have a view of all the people that are participating. So we can see if you have a question, there's a way to do that, or you can turn your screen on if you like, and you can just wave like Steve just did. So there's multiple ways that you can be involved. Again, thank you so much for making the time to join us tonight. We have about an hour of time before we have to get the members back on the street where we want them and doing their thing. But I do want to thank and welcome Constable Finney and Constable Peters. And I should take a moment to now introduce our MLA for the area, Myrna Drieger, who has joined us. Hi, Myrna. Thank you very much for being here. I'm going to let the two members of the service start us off just by talking about a little bit what they do in the community, and I think maybe share some stats and some updates on things that have been happening in the community, gentlemen, if you'd like to, anyways. I'm going to have to turn your mic off mute. Sorry about that. Oh, you have to do that. There you go.
Hey, not too bad. Hi there. Thanks for having us today. I'm Constable Finney with the Winnipeg Police Community Support Unit out of West District. We have, and this is my partner, Constable Peters. Our main job in community support is to assist everybody with ongoing problems in community regarding ongoing, whether they be ongoing thefts or ongoing neighbor disputes. We're not overly involved in immediate calls for service as our general patrol units are. We tend to deal with ongoing issues within the area that we cover out of West District. Just a little bit about what we do. One of our main driving factors in what we do is our Smart Policing Initiative, which is to put it in easy terms, we basically use stats provided from calls for service to determine what areas are in the most need of assistance with car break-ins, residential break-ins, and frankly, all kinds of, whether it be violent crimes, all sorts of things. It gives us an idea of where these issues are and where we're able to direct our focus. We then create these what we call spy hotspots, which are then the membership is then able to see, okay, this is an area of higher crime, so we're going to go to this area and do a little more proactive patrols through the area to see if we can help solve or deter any more issues from occurring. Did you want to touch base?
And yeah, no, further to that, we're a unit of seven constables in there. So, and there's 2 shifts. So when we're on our days off, the other shift is rolling with that information.
If I could just jump in for a second. So when you talked about that, the spy program, if you will, maybe you could share with us the how effective it has been in the past, because I know we had talked about previously how sometimes people don't like to go online and report a small crime or a crime that they don't think it was a big magnitude of a crime, but how vital that information really is to you, and as you compile and try to learn more about where crime is happening in the city. So maybe if you could spend a couple of seconds on that.
Sure. We've seen some pretty good success with our spy program. The one of the major issues, of course, is the lack of reporting. When we have a lack of reporting from the public, because like you said, they don't feel it's something that they want to bother police with. But when we do have people calling, we have seen success with the level of break-ins going down, the vehicle break-ins going down. Unfortunately, in our city, that oftentimes is it's kind of a moving. We kind of just displace the issue. The issue kind of goes from one area to the next, and we try to keep up on that as best we can. We have seen a decrease in most of our stats from all our break and enters to stolen vehicles, robberies. They're all down with various percentage, various points. Other than our commercial break-ins have been up about 4%. Which we believe we've kind of solved that problem with some recent arrests, as they were kind of hitting multiple places in the area. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping that that's going to be on its way down as well with the work that we've been doing there.
Great. We have a question from Steve, and Steve had asked, how does Charleswood compare to other parts of the city for crime stats? You can see this on. You can't see the crime stats online. Well, you can see the crime stats online, During my time as police board chair, we did a lot of work to try and get that online as quickly as possible. And I know right now you can go on and see calls for service, so you can see what areas of the city where the calls to service are. It's a little more difficult for the actual crime stats, because now it's kind of changed a bit, and they're waiting before they call it an actual crime. It has to kind of go through the system to see if charges have been laid, and that's of course up to the Justice Department and the Crown Attorneys. So you can see the calls for service online, but you can't necessarily see the crime stats. I won't offer an opinion on that, but that's where it is today. So would that be right, gentlemen?
Yeah, for sure. The website does provide a lot of information regarding the different areas of the city. We do cover, like West District itself covers 46% of the city, and our areas are very large. I mean, our downtown area is probably has one of the higher crime rates in the city. So we're certainly lower than them, but it's just a different type. They're all kind of each area, each neighborhood kind of has their own kind of issues, depending whether it's traffic or whether it's residential break-ins or vehicles broken into, and those can usually be attributed to people walking through the area or their geographical location comparatively to the downtown area or sometimes under the bridges. So we're certainly not the worst in as much as what's going on in especially in the Charleswood area or the West Portage area. But I mean, everything is serious to the people and that's part of our goal. Like, we understand that that break and enter may not be important to everybody, but it is important to us. And it's important for people to know that no matter how much crime is happening in the area, it's all important. And we take it personally with the property crime in our area, because we do have a lot of hardworking people that do work for the things they have, and they shouldn't be having to take these steps. But certainly the numbers aren't are comparative to other similar neighborhoods within the city. It's certainly not getting hit harder than any other part.
And if I can, there's a couple of questions. Steve had asked if it was 46% by area or population, and I can jump in and answer that one just because of my previous experience. It's 46% of the area of Winnipeg is covered by our West District station. City's broken into, I believe it's 4 districts, correct, gentlemen?
Yes.
4 districts. Every district has at least 7 patrol cars. Those 7 patrol cars, and at certain times of the day when when the shifts are kind of, especially at night, they overlap a little bit, so that they have additional members and responding vehicles on the road. The problem with 7 is that if you have a large amount of crime spiking in a different area of the city, members will have to go back up in other areas of the city. And I will be very clear on this, because I've heard several times that the city of Winnipeg is record spending or record investment into the city of Winnipeg, but in fact, over the last 6 years, the number of members, police officers, has dropped year by year by year, and the number of calls has significantly increased, and the area footprint has in fact expanded. So this is why there is obviously some delays, and there's some calls in the queue, and that's why it becomes very much a difficult job, also from an internal perspective. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but from a 911 operator's perspective, they have to then determine the seriousness of the incident going on, because that will determine where they go. So did I miss anything in that before I get to the other questions, guys? Gentlemen, sorry.
No, it's basically like we have. Like you say, in our district there's 166 members, and 143 of those are constables. So out of that is 6 platoons. Each platoon has 7 members. So just so people have an idea, in 2020, 24 members. 24. Yeah. Just so people have an idea, in 2020 we had, as a Winnipeg Police as a whole, had 307,450 calls for service, which averages out to 842 calls a day. So we're busy, and that's where, like, a community support unit like us, we're separate from that queue. So as long as you guys are feeding us information, calling us, telling us if your vehicle is broken into, even if nothing was damaged, nothing was stolen out of your vehicle, still let us know, because we can make the time to focus on that area.
Very valid point. There was another question from Steve, and then Nancy added one. Steve had asked if you track the Charleswood Community Crime Watch page on Facebook, and I added the Facebook part, so I hope I'm not misspeaking, but I do follow that page as well. And then there's also the Tuxedo Crime Facebook page. Is that monitored by the service? My understanding is that some social media is monitored, but there's not the resources to monitor social media on a full-time basis. Is that correct?
We kind of, as a unit, we kind of take it on ourselves to, when we do hear of these types of Facebook pages, to try and follow them, just to try to get some insight into what is happening in the community. But we don't have a system in place where this information is being collected and fed to the police. So we kind of take it upon ourselves just to try and follow these pages, but we don't work all the time, and not everybody is as it looks at it every day, or so we tend to miss things. But we do try to give a lot of those Facebook accounts some attention, but we're not working all the time. We don't, some of us live in the area, some of us don't. So we're not on there all the time or looking all the time. So like my partner said, the best way is to report to police, which can be done just online. Even if there's no suspects, you go online, you fill out the report, and that does eventually come to us. That gets logged as a statistic, and then it gives us a dot or reference on the map as to where the problems are. So.
And sometimes that's more effective than putting it on Facebook, correct? I mean, it's good to inform your neighbors of what's going on, but taking that step to do it online is so critical to making sure that you're aware of it, and it can be used to collect the data necessary to know whether or not you need to increase patrol somewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Having said that, though, like, the community should still be talking. Like, if Facebook is the platform to do it on, then do it on there. Like my partner said, we do monitor that Facebook from time to time. And we do get some, like this past summer, there was a gentleman on West Portage there that was, constantly damaging vehicles over and over and over. We got a photo from a Facebook group, ultimately led to his arrest. So, yeah, but by all means, like, call us first.
Okay. We have another question that came in, and this is one that I've talked to a lot of people about, so I'm interested in hearing yours. How useful are cameras in deterring crime? So, and then we'll get to the second one, because there's some second ones. But from what I understand in some of the meetings I had as chair, is that the doorbell cameras are very effective.
Absolutely. The home cameras and the quality of the cameras that are available now are absolutely amazing. Sometimes you can't always see their face, but we get clothing descriptions. There's a lot of things that we can do. A picture, is
worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, like it's super helpful. People also, like, criminals or people who are untoward, not wanting or going to do some damage, tend to get deterred by when they do see these doorbells and cameras, because they know that they're going to get caught on camera. oftentimes they'll avoid the house completely. But having said that, even we've had instances where we've gotten somebody's house has been broken into, or vehicle, and we've actually gotten video from across the street of somebody who has doorbell cam that caught it. So it does help deter, and it certainly helps the police more so.
Capture, yeah.
Because sometimes criminals, they just don't care. They're going to do what they're going to do no matter what, unfortunately. But any tool that we have to help capture them or find out who they are or whatever certainly helps for sure.
Yeah, and having a camera too, like a lot of these guys, it's not their first time committing a crime, right? So they've been dealt with before by police officers. So now if we have a picture to put the crime to, or a description, that picture gets circulated within the Winnipeg Police Service. Chances are one of us 1,400 police officers is going to know exactly who that guy is, and then we can work towards getting an arrest for that.
Just on a side note with that too, on the Winnipeg Police website, there is, if anybody does have concerns about their personal safety in their home, and there is on our website, you can go on there. There's boxes that you can click on, and actually they actually have a checklist, kind of looks like this here, that you can go through yourself and kind of score yourself to see how well you're doing, whether do you have the proper lighting in the house, or are you doing things appropriate to keep yourself safe. And that's pulled right from the website that I found. I didn't know it existed either. So our website is a pretty good resource for people if they do have these types of questions, or if they feel like, am I doing things right? Well, it is on the website, but I mean, they're always welcome to call too, or stop and when they see a police officer to ask. I mean, we're always there to help. So
yeah.
Okay. The other question was, and I can take this one, do the traffic lights on Roblot and Berkeley have cameras? No, and I suspect you're talking about the red light cameras, if that's the case. And if not, can they be considered there for the future? So for clarity on the cameras are right now under review by the province, because it is part of the Traffic Act. So they are being reviewed. The locations where they are now have been the same location for over 10 years. On the traveling units that go into different spots throughout the city, this is not determined by the Winnipeg Police Service. This is a contract that the police and the city and the provider of the cameras. It's a joint agreement that the city signed, and there's two ways that you can sign this agreement. You can sign on to purchase the equipment yourself, and you have full control over the fines. And you take in the cost, or you can do a revenue split. And the city of Winnipeg chose to do a revenue split. So when you do the revenue split, the company that provides the cameras also gets to have a say in where the cameras go, because they want to generate as much revenue as possible as well. So I know a lot of discussion is, well, why are they here? Why are they there? That's part of it. It's not necessarily the city saying you can go here or you go there. They will provide a list of where the construction zones are and the school zones, but the organization is often playing a big part of that. And that's why you hear a lot, well, geez, they gave 7,000 tickets in that one location. Why don't they go somewhere else? Because the organization that gets a percentage of that wants to obviously generate revenue for their investment. So they prefer to be in those types of locations, all of which is under review right now by the province as a part of the Traffic Act. And we really won't know where the cameras for the city will go until we understand what the new Traffic Act does say. But it's reviewed all the time, and that's what the provincial legislation is there for, and that's what we follow the lead of. And I think it's a good time to review it, and I know it's getting done. So we'll wait for that to come through. But moving it around right now, or being able to move it, it's not possible with the technology we have, and the mobile units can only be used in construction zones or school slash playgrounds, as far as I understand. If that's incorrect, jump in, gentlemen, and let me know. But I did a ton of research on this one. Next question is from Nancy. It says, my friend's new Lexus was stolen out of the garage on Park Boulevard and Cuthbertson. They called the police and they did nothing. Her husband tracked the car with the Lexus app, so they knew exactly where it was, but the police never came. Eventually, the police sent a tow truck and hauled it off somewhere.
Yeah, in those situations is difficult. As my partner mentioned, there's lots of calls for service every day. And unfortunately, property crime is not as
let me take this one.
Yeah, sure.
Let me take this one because everyone wants to be diplomatic about it. I'm happy not to be. Again, going back to what we talked about earlier, and Steve actually pointed it out, which I thought was clever. 46% of the city is covered by West District, 7 police units, 7.
Yes.
And those 7 units are called off to back up and attend to more serious crimes. These are crimes that involve threats to human life, weapons, and so on. And as you can imagine, we have a number of those that take place in the city. Domestic violence often will involve a weapon, which will require more than 1 unit to respond. The helicopter, which a lot of people will talk about and say costs us a lot of money, is actually one of the best resources because it can be the first responder and the first on scene to many incidents. And it can clear a scene because there are calls often that will say, for example, that I was involved in with a man on a roof that was throwing off TVs and had a weapon. Helicopter got there was nobody around, but it was almost like somebody wanted a whole bunch of police cars to get on to this location. Mm-hmm. Helicopter stays, they tell there's nothing going on. 1 unit comes to verify everything else, and then they all leave. Saved tons of resources, and that's tens of thousands of dollars. The problem with the property crime, and I think you'll hear this from a lot of people because I've had friends who have had their houses broken into, nobody's coming. And unfortunately, I know the service takes a lot of heat for that, and I feel terrible about that. Especially being an elected official, the resources aren't there. We do not have the highest number of police per capita, as we have always said. We maybe did at one time. We do not have that anymore. When you have 7 cars, we are at the minimum. And imagine that, 7 cars for the area, the West District, which is 46% of the city. And when you think of all the crimes that are going on, I can't remember the number of calls. You said 300,000 calls. I believe my first year, the number of calls for service that registered were about 270, 265, in around there. So they're climbing. So that's a big one. So I also don't want to downplay that because I think that's terrible. I think it's terrible that the service doesn't have the people to respond and catch that person, because whenever I watch any cop show on TV, they do it within 60 seconds. They're there. So I don't know why we can't have that, but I think it is an issue, and this goes back to providing the basics of a city. This is one of the basics that a city has to provide to its residents. This is one of the things that is very, very important to residents. And this is where I think we have to focus some of our attention. So I don't want to, again, I'm not downplaying that, but I know it's difficult for you guys to answer, but that is the reality. There was another question from Myrna Drieger, who's our MLA, also the Speaker of the House, and it would be rude of me not to let her jump in and talk to the gentleman herself. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, Ms. Drieger, please do so, and the officers are all yours.
Well, thank you, and thanks, Kevin, for this opportunity tonight for people to get on board here and discuss some of these issues. I have been also getting a number of calls and watching there's various groups set up for Crime Watch in communities. So it's not just general, Facebook groups. There's actually Crime Watch communities and sharing of information. And we're certainly hearing a lot, and it is some of the frustration that, people are having is certainly that there's a lot of break and enters and I think one of the things that I found helpful tonight is the encouragement by the police officers to be sure to still call things in, even if you may not get an immediate response from police. But I think your comments on that tonight were really good and useful, because I'm not sure, I think people maybe sometimes give up and thinking, well, nobody's going to answer. So I'm going to make sure that that's part of something that I will say to the people that I talk to. We are seeing, and hearing a lot more about porch pirates, about people in the middle of the night wandering through the communities. A few weeks ago, it was a guy with a crowbar, a backpack. There have been break-ins when people are still home in the middle of the night. And some of these are just scary. And so I'm curious, are the numbers going up or are they going down in those areas? Like the home break and enters, the car break and enters, the thefts of vehicles, those are all the things that sort of are coming our way in terms of some of the issues being brought forward. So I'm kind of curious what the breakdown is in terms of, how many are we seeing of break and enters, how many of theft,
Okay, so
and any of that.
Yeah, in District 2, the area we cover, our residential break and enters, it says here 103 in 2019, 103 in 2020. So that stayed the same. Theft of motor vehicle. In 2019, we had 304 instances. In 2020, 278 instances. So that went down 9%. Stolen vehicles. In 2019, we had 172 stolen vehicles. In 2020, it was 161 stolen vehicles, down 6%. So it's slowly coming down.
So may I jump in and ask you to share the stat with all of us on the cars that were stolen? How many of them actually had keys or had access to keys?
Yeah, there's a stat here. What was it? I'll get the number exactly right. Yeah.
So MPI reported 3,100 stolen vehicles in 2018, with 90% of the keys were located inside the vehicle. That's 90%.
So that's from people starting their vehicles before work. That's from people hiding a key somewhere in the vehicle. If your vehicle gets rummaged through and there's a key in there, chances are your car won't be there in the morning. So I mean, if you want to keep a key in your car, a spare key, you can get a little magnet box where you can put the key in and stick it on the frame under your car. It'll be safe there, it doesn't fall off, and you have an extra key.
I think I'm guessing based on those stats, I'll just not have one. Thank you. I'll keep it in my house somewhere. Yeah. Interesting stat, and I'll go to some more questions if I can. There is also a WhatsApp Tuxedo Mums group chat of 80 to 90 families. I was not aware of this one, and they report a lot of crime, lost dogs, etc. there. Were you aware of that?
We were not aware of that. WhatsApp is it's a little different than the social media. You kind of, with WhatsApp, you're
connected.
Right. So it'd be a little more difficult for us to get involved with something like that. Because we do have days off where the other side is working, right? So, but again, it always comes down to having people, if there's something going on, to report it. That's the biggest thing that we can get people to do.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to do again online.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's something that I'll look at doing on my website. Is maybe I can put a page on there where people can leave messages too, and we can keep watching it and get it out to the department so that you guys can see it and see it there. But I would still urge people to go online, because the spy program really does work. It's worked in Charleswood, it's worked in River Heights. So I think that that's very important. And in fairness, our two constables had a tough time figuring out what Zoom was. Well, I don't think they're going to be able to figure out WhatsApp, which is okay. They got a more important job to do. We'll let them off on that one. We had a comment from Carla Peters that says, "So proud of our police service. We appreciate you. Keep up the great work."
Awesome.
Thank you very
Good
much.
to hear.
So, and a couple other questions that came in that I want to get to quickly that were just sent by email, people that could not participate. Tell me about dogs. If a home has a dog, has that been a deterrent? Do you feel it's a deterrent? Yes or no? Or do you see, how is that helpful?
As far as like preventing break and enters?
Yes.
What's your experience?
You know what? I would say if you had a Lapso, maybe not so much. If you had a big German Shepherd, they'd probably think twice. Certainly, having dogs do help on a number of fronts. Dogs will oftentimes, when somebody that they don't recognize is trying to come to the house or comes to the door, they're going to bark right away. Tends to help deter people from even going into that residence because now they're going to be awake. Mm-hmm. So in my experience, dogs are surely helpful. I have a dog of my own. Anytime anybody knocks at the door, he's barking and at the door. Doesn't matter what time of the day it is, and he doesn't care if I'm sleeping or not. Personally, I do think it's if you do have a dog and they will at the very least alert you to something going on. Gives you a little more time to be able to either lock the door, call the police, and to get a unit out there. Surely, and I should say, if that is the case and somebody's actively breaking into your house, you call 911. You will get units to you as soon as possible. Yeah. So.
No, we don't have any other questions. If you do have questions, please put them in there because we have a little bit of more time. But are there things that you could share with us that are maybe some items that we don't think about? Like if we park our car outside, what should we be careful about? If we do have stuff in the yard, what should we be watching for? Because sometimes I think we are our own worst enemy. Because I've had it happen to my car. It was broken into once. Went into a restaurant, but I left my briefcase in the backseat and never thought of it. Yeah. Somebody saw it, of course, and took it. It was just paperwork, but they, still, I think it was, it was something that caught their eye, and I kind of brought that on myself. So, are there things that we should be looking for or be conscious of?
Certainly when it comes to vehicles, I know we, in dealing with people who get broken into repeatedly. They get sick and tired of having to replace windows from locking the doors. But certainly removing all items from inside your vehicle so that nothing's in plain sight, keeping your doors locked. We do have also on the website, and you could print them off, or you can come to one of the offices and pick up these little yellow cards. Basically, we started handing these cards out as you remove everything. It's got a list of things to do on the back. You remove all your valuables, you take it and you leave it in your windshield. The idea is that they're going to see it and they're going to, okay, well, they clearly took the time to take everything out, so maybe we'll skip this vehicle. Also on there, like there's a list of things that you should be conscious of. Certainly, not keeping change in your vehicle, not keeping anything valuable in your vehicle or on site or in sight. A lot of people just remove even their paperwork. They take right out of their car. Keeping your car locked. If you have to park your car in the street or on your driveway, make sure that it's well lit. That you have a lot of light on your vehicle, whether from a street light or whether from the house. And the biggest thing is out of sight, out of mind. If they can't see it, they're more likely to go buy it because it's not worth their time and effort to possibly getting caught. So they'll move on to somewhere that's a bit of an easier target.
Yeah, to a neighbor that didn't spend the time to take everything in. Or
so,
say with garage door openers, Also take them in every day if you can, because we have a ton of break and enters that are a result of a car being entered and them finding the garage door opener, entering the garage, and then stealing bikes and tools and whatnot all. Yeah.
And there's an iPhone app, I understand, that some have been able to use they go around to houses and they try to open garages. Is that a myth or is that a reality?
You know what, I have heard of I mean, as technology advances, they get smarter and smarter, and start to figure out ways. I know there has been issues with people reprogramming key fobs to start vehicles with the push button, with the push button start, right? So they are figuring out ways. It is unfortunate because if they took the amount of time that they spent into figuring out how to victimize people or break into their stuff and put it towards something better, I think we'd be a lot better off. But unfortunately, that's where they choose to spend their time. So I haven't heard of the iPhone app that sends out a signal like that, but it's certainly something I'll take back and look into for sure.
Okay. And we've got a lot of good questions that came in. One of them is also from Myrna Dreger, and I think it goes back to the car theft problem and a little bit of the break-ins. And she was asking about the drug problem in Charleswood. And a lot of these petty thefts are for drug purposes, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. The drug issue is not just in Charleswood. Unfortunately, it's worldwide. It's not just Manitoba. It's not, and unfortunately, neighborhoods aren't as safe as they used to be from that element. But you are right. Oftentimes, the people that are breaking into cars and doing the property crime often do have substance abuse problems. And they're looking for something easy, low risk to further their habit or that type of activity. So
okay, there was a comment from Marion, and I think we can answer that. Do you have a listing of neighborhood watch people within a certain radius? It has been helpful to communicate incidents as soon as they occur, and many times there is a path of destruction. We've had days where cars had their windows smashed from Berkeley, South Boyne, up Orchard Park and down to South Boyne. Once we send a heads up, people are reminded again to lock and secure their valuables. I'm not aware of the list for the neighborhood watch programs. I think that's a great idea. I haven't been made aware of those, but I am quite familiar with the Facebook pages. And I know we have a couple of people that have started neighborhood watch programs on their block. But they've kept it very much to their block, and they're doing emails or texts to the neighbors on their block. And we don't necessarily have the neighborhood watch program any longer because of funding. But there was it's called COP, Citizens on Patrol program, and it had something to do with MPI. And I can certainly put people in touch with that. That is still ongoing, and it's supported. It does have the support and recognition of the Winnipeg Police Service, and it does come with some training and such. But again, that they try to focus in on streets and blocks so that you're all connected with your neighbors, because I mean, it's changed. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, we knew everybody who lived on the street. Now we don't seem to know. But I think that's a great comment. But that would all about the neighborhood watch, but also go back to the fact, if people start reporting that there's a path of destruction happening, then you would be aware of it through the spy program.
Yeah. And certainly you have, with that path of destruction, because we've seen it lots, have every individual that has something to report it. But there's nothing saying that you appoint one person to reach out to our community support unit to say, okay, this is what happened, to speak with our supervisor saying, this is what happened in this area. Everybody has been requested to report it online, but sometimes that could take a couple weeks for us to get. But to follow up with a phone call, have one person as a contact point to contact our community support unit so that we're aware of it as soon as possible. There's nothing saying that they can't do with it. we certainly would like this information sooner rather than later, and we can get on it sooner, especially if it's something that's occurring night overnight, for sure.
A good example of that is actually the Tuxedo Community Center. This summer there was issues there that Councillor Klein made our station aware. He phoned our inspector and staff sergeant and just said, listen, we're having some issues there, kids smashing lights out and stuff like this. So we were made aware of it, set up a spy hotspot there that we focused downtime on, and that problem was alleviated very quick. And actually arrests came out of that too. So yeah, it works. Just let us know it works.
Good. Should have done it through Crime Stoppers. Maybe I would have got something.
Yeah.
Steve has a question. Steve, I'll let you jump in. That's a good question. So maybe I'll let you try to ask the officers yourself if you would like. Would you, Steve?
So hi, so Marion and I are kind of Marion's our community watch representative, and I'm just a local guy who walks around with my dog all the time, so I keep track. But I've noticed lately that there's been an increase in vehicle thefts or vehicle entry where people have gone in and taken stuff. And I wonder if you could comment on the line that is crossed in going from a rummaging through a vehicle or smashing a window on a vehicle versus trying to enter someone's home. To me, that seems quite a large psychological and risk line to cross for criminals, and it's going from petty theft to some pretty major stuff where you're potentially going to run into someone and have to do something more to them. And I just wonder, are you seeing the crimes that we're seeing in our areas are the petty theft where pretty not really trying to interact with people, or are you seeing that increase where there's a potential to interact and enter homes?
You know what? There's a lots of the breaking into vehicles, like us and our unit. We all those are serious stuff because we have somebody that has that we have a victim, whether they've just gone into your car or whether they're going into your house. That to us is important because it's important to you guys. It's important to us. Whether or not the individual decides to go into the house or just into the vehicle, often there's going to be certain elements that kind of play into that. Like my partner had mentioned, if they see a clicker for the garage, right? Well, now they're going to go through the garage. Most people leave the door between their garage and their house unlocked, so then they're going to go into the house. So the potential kind of comes with what are they going to be able to do that's easy, right? We don't see a lot of people being woken up from somebody trying to kick their door in. A lot of these individuals are just trying to feed a habit, so they want the least amount of potential for being caught. So if they feel we tend to see a lot of break-ins prior to COVID, of course, break-ins during the day, because they know that everybody in those areas are generally working class. They're going to go to work during the day, so they're actively seeking out to not have those interactions. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that there will be those interactions. We don't see it a lot, and what usually happens when somebody is home, there's a call to 911. And a general patrol unit is sent to that call as it's a high priority. They're sent to that call right away, and they try to deal with it at the time. So we're not seeing a whole lot of people being broken into while they're at home. It's much more likely now that because everybody's working from home or at home most of the time now. So, but from the stats that we've seen, it's usually just looking for property. They'll go into the garage that's open, or they'll go into the vehicle that's open, or they'll break the window. But they're not generally going into houses that they feel that somebody might be home.
No. Kevin, do you mind if I ask my other question there?
No, go right ahead.
I was wondering, I wanted some advice, and maybe reading through the home audit or doing that. We're going to share that with our community group that we have, because we do have emails for most of the people in our community. But one of the things I was wondering if you could provide is, are there some things that we should be doing in our area that can make it less desirable for crime? One of the things I've noticed at night, I'm out about 10 o'clock every night, and I've noticed a definite shift towards people turning their lights off. And I'm not sure if this is a desire to try to make it so that their house is not seen, and so the criminals can't come up to it. I've always learned to keep every light on in my house that I can. So I've got lights on. I've now just installed 2 security cameras. I've installed a security motion light. This is all in the last week since we've had a couple of extra crimes in our area. So I've also put a bin on my front porch, mainly trying to avoid the porch pirates and not giving them so they can see it. So now the pirates go inside when they arrive. So I was just wondering, do you have some recommendations, whether it's lights on at night, cameras to monitor movement, surveillance lights for the homes, that we should be all communicating with our neighbors to try to make it safer and less likely?
Absolutely keep your lights on outside. You have to do whatever it is you can do to make yourself not a victim. Just like you say, motion lights are a huge asset. Even, normal lights that aren't in motion, that just keep them on. You'd be surprised. We drive down down the streets in Charleswood. River Heights is another area where we'll see people, walking down the road that we may want to talk to and ask them what they're doing there at 2 a.m. And they see headlights or hear our car coming, and they can disappear into nothing there. And it's you'd be shocked. It's so dark out there because the lights are all out. Have security cameras, have signs that say this premise is covered by security cameras. Even if you don't have any, have the signs there. Just whatever you can to make yourself not a victim.
And certainly keep, like, you don't want to leave your bike out on the front porch or in the driveway. Keeping all your valuables hidden. Again, like I mentioned before, out of sight, out of mind. So if they can't see it, they're likely not going to take that risk. They're not going to risk it to steal it. They steal a lot of things because it's easy. So lights are huge. If you can light everything up, I suggest you do so. Certainly keeping all your doors locked. The security cameras are excellent, whether it just be the Ring doorbell is certainly better than nothing. If you're able to have cameras up around the property as well, and it certainly gives us a lot more ability to help you guys when looking for somebody specific. Oftentimes we're able to see, okay, well, this neighbor has a camera, and we get a photo from them, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, this other neighbor has one and they got broken into too. So now we have this individual doing not one crime, but they have 2, right? So we're able to hold them in jail longer. We're able to do other things because they've committed more than just one crime.
Second, I have a few more questions in here, so I want to zip to those, but Steve had one final one that I do want to get to. Asking, do we have to call, or is the online reporting still going to get to the community officers?
Our online reporting system covers specific types of crime, your break and enters, your mischief to property and vehicles, fraud, lost property, theft for motor vehicles. What ends up, those go through our system. They'll go to our analytic people. They do their job, and then they send it to us going, okay, they give us a nice pretty little report saying, okay, you've had this many instances in this area. You guys need to focus time here because it's something's happening here. And it could be something as simple as somebody moving into the neighborhood, or right, like you just never know. So we certainly get a lot of these, and if there are things to follow up on, these types of reports do come to us. We will get them to follow up on them, but Yeah. So, and again, like it's all about reporting.
Yeah.
Report.
If you take one thing away from this, it's call us and report it. And all those reports that we get from our crime analysts, they go down to like average time a day that these things are happening. If it's stolen vehicles, they'll say that this is the type of vehicle that's being stolen. This is the day of the week that it's most common on. It's very, very detailed. So yeah, please call us.
I think that's excellent, and really, I see that as more eyeballs, right? I mean, again, we have seven units on the street and covering a very big portion of the city, and that's hard to see everything going on. So the more that we can do through reporting and putting it online, the better. It's a good another question here from Nancy about her friend's Lexus, and maybe it's just helpful to. For her to understand that when the Lexus was stolen, it was in the garage. It was around 8:30 p.m. and it was they were home at the time, and the garage doors were closed. She was wondering how could somebody get in and access that vehicle.
That's a very good question. I'm not familiar with the setup of their house. They could have a man door on the outside that was left unlocked. Prying open a garage doors is like a big garage door is kind of difficult. It could have been left open. I don't know the specific circumstances and the design of the house. So there's any number of ways that they could have gotten there or gotten the vehicle out. Whether the vehicle was running,
Where were the keys?
Where were the keys of the vehicle? Like all these things play a factor that we just can't really. It's difficult for us to comment on because there's too many variables to say.
Yeah. Well, if they have a keypad, there's some generic. Sometimes they can luck out on the keypad. There's some very common numbers that are used when they're for a keypad. But it's a good question. The keys, I think, is the biggest part because I mean, vehicles now are very difficult to steal without the keys.
Yes.
Shown by your stats.
Long gone are the days of gone in 60 seconds. So they can't hotwire cars like they used to anymore.
Yeah. No, that's very true. And Steve put some information on here as well for everybody if you're looking for inexpensive cameras that work. He gave a link to a camera that's available on Amazon. Thank you, Steve. Obviously, you do that with your group and neighborhood watch group you have going on. We appreciate that. He also mentioned that they do block parties. That's something that I'm going to try to do this summer if the restrictions allow, is try to help areas that want to do block parties for, get to know your neighbors more, because I think that's something that is missing is that we're going to try to sponsor as many as we can through my office. And try to help with that just for something small, just so the neighbors on one street can get to know each other. So if you are planning one of those, let me know. Nancy, who was talking about the Lexus, she said that her house was broken into a couple of years ago on New Year's Eve day. They knocked in their big oak doors. Police came, called their carpenter, and stayed until the doors were fixed. And she's saying, thank you very much. And Trevor asked, what percentage of crimes are actually reported? Good question.
That's a very good question. The unfortunate answer is we never really know the extent of calls that aren't reported because we never hear about them. I know we've had instances where we go to residents who have their vehicles broken into on, at least once a week. Mm-hmm. And they're like, we've been broken into the last 16 times and there's no reports for us we go look for the reports, but they haven't reported anything to us because they didn't feel it was important enough, or they didn't want to bother us or whatever the case may be. So it's tough to say, and our statistics are based on what is reported. We can't really say or speak to how many instances aren't reported. I'm going to say there's probably a high number of things because people don't feel it's they want to bother us or they don't feel anything's going to be done. Yeah. Is a couple of the comments that we get often. But surely we are watching, and we do like these because it gives us some direction for sure. So
yeah, and policing it's very like I'll kind of say reactionary, right? You phone us and we're coming. This whole spy program and everything is very proactive. And again, you give us a dot on the map to start at, and we'll get your problems looked after eventually.
Excellent. And I think it's important to note that I've done ride-alongs with the service that have been very enlightening, and the spy program does work, and the pictures do work, and especially because, unfortunately, a lot of the people that are committed.
That was the abrupt ending, and I apologize for that. We lost the internet at that moment, but we were just about to wrap it up. So if you've watched the entire thing, thank you very much for that. I hope you learned a little bit from that, and I hope you enjoyed it. Again, as I mentioned off the start, we are planning one for February. Well, we'll have one every month. We're going to have them every month. February, March, April. In February, we're working to speak with a person with the City of Winnipeg that can tell us about the organics and organics pickup that we're working on, and also recycling. Because I think there's a lot of people that still don't understand recycling, especially when it comes to pizza boxes. Can you recycle pizza boxes? That's the question. And we're going to try to find that out on our next town hall. If you have any ideas for a town hall, something you think would interest people or interest you, send me an email, kevin@kevinklein.ca, or call the office, 986-5232.